90 million. That is the number of international passengers who passed through Dubai International Airport last year. 90 million. It is the busiest international airport on Earth, not by a small margin, but by a significant one. More international passengers pass through Terminal 3 in Dubai than through Heathrow, Frankfurt, and Singapore Changi combined. More than 100 airlines operate there. It is the single most connected civilian aviation hub in the world, the physical infrastructure through which the Middle East, South Asia, East Africa, and Southeast Asia communicate with the rest of the planet. On Monday, a drone hit its fuel tank and set it on fire. On Tuesday, the UAE closed its entire national airspace as Iranian missiles and drones approached from the north. 90 million passengers, one drone, one fire, two airspace closures in 18 hours. That number is what this episode is about. And by the end, you will understand exactly why it changes everything. Good morning, I'm James Harlow. Welcome to The Right Chapter, where we connect the world's biggest events to the forces they set in motion. Let me tell you precisely what happened and why the sequence of events over the past 48 hours in the UAE is the single most important geographic shift in this war since it began 18 days ago. On Monday, March 16th, at approximately 3 a.m. local time, an Iranian drone struck a fuel tank in the vicinity of Dubai International Airport. The Dubai media office confirmed that civil defense teams successfully contained the resulting fire and that no injuries were reported from that specific strike. But the Dubai Civil Aviation Authority suspended flights at the airport as a precautionary measure, without specifying when it expected operations to resume. Some flights were diverted to Al Maktoum International Airport, Dubai's secondary facility. Emirates Airline, the world's largest long-haul carrier, began routing some intercontinental flights through Abu Dhabi and Jeddah as technical stops, a highly unusual operational adaptation that signals the airline's own assessment of the ongoing risk to its primary hub. That was Monday. Tuesday brought a second, more serious escalation. UAE military authorities reported overnight that they were actively responding to incoming Iranian missile and drone threats, and the country's General Civil Aviation Authority took the exceptional step of closing the UAE's entire national airspace, not a single airport, the entire country. The closure lasted nearly 2 hours before the GCAA confirmed that the situation had stabilized and flights could resume. UAE air defense systems intercepted 10 Iranian ballistic missiles and 45 drones in that single overnight exchange, according to the UAE Defense Ministry. The loud explosions heard across Dubai in the early morning hours were, the Dubai media office confirmed, the sounds of successful interceptions. For residents who have lived through 18 consecutive nights of this, the distinction between the sound of a missile landing and the sound of a missile being destroyed overhead has become grimly familiar. To understand the full scale of what is being absorbed by one country, consider this. According to the UAE Ministry of Defense, since the war began on February 28th, Iranian forces have fired more than 300 ballistic missiles, 15 cruise missiles, and 1,627 drones at the United Arab Emirates. That is a total of nearly 2,000 projectiles aimed at a country with a population of 10 million people, most of whom are foreign nationals, workers from South Asia, Southeast Asia, the Arab world, and Europe who came to Dubai and Abu Dhabi for economic opportunity and are now living inside an active war zone they had no part in creating. The UAE sits in a position of extreme geopolitical exposure in this conflict. It normalized relations with Israel in 2020 under the Abraham Accords. It hosts US military bases, including Al Dhafra Air Base, which has been targeted repeatedly. It does not share a border with Iran, but sits within easy drone and missile range of the Iranian mainland. The strait between them is approximately 55 kilometers at its narrowest point. Iran has been explicit in its stated justification. Gulf countries hosting American military forces are, in Tehran's framing, legitimate targets. The UAE government rejects that framing entirely. UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman spoke by phone on Monday and jointly condemned what they called sinful Iranian attacks on GCC countries, affirming their intentions to defend their territories. The GCC, the United Kingdom, and Jordan issued a joint statement condemning Iranian aggression and calling for de-escalation. What Iran is doing to Dubai is not random, it is not imprecise. And here is what most coverage is missing about the strategic logic of hitting Dubai International Airport specifically. Dubai is not just a city, it is the infrastructure of the Global South's connectivity to the rest of the world. More than 60% of the population of the planet lives within an 8-hour flight of Dubai. South Asian workers remitting wages home, African business travelers connecting to Asian markets, energy executives managing supply chains across the Gulf. All of them flow through one facility. When that facility is disrupted, it is not a tactical inconvenience. It is a demonstration that nowhere in the region is insulated from the consequences of this war. That demonstration is itself the message. The historical parallel that illuminates this strategy is the London Blitz of 1940 and 1941. The German Luftwaffe's bombing campaign against British cities was not primarily intended to destroy specific military targets. It was intended to demonstrate that the cost of continued British resistance was being distributed across the entire civilian and commercial infrastructure of the country, not just its military installations. The logic was, make the price of staying in the war felt everywhere by everyone at all times until the political will to continue collapses. Iran's targeting of Dubai International Airport, the Fujairah oil hub, the Palm Jumeirah Hotel District, Abu Dhabi's residential areas, and the Shah gas field follows exactly this structural logic. Every strike on civilian and commercial infrastructure in the UAE is a message to the 9 other Gulf countries watching. The cost of hosting American forces is being distributed to you, not just to Iran. The opposing interpretation is that Iran's targeting of Dubai is a strategic overreach that will cost Tehran diplomatic support among the Gulf states it needs as a buffer against complete isolation. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Bahrain are not US military allies in the formal treaty sense. They have historically maintained working relationships with Iran for trade and diplomatic purposes. By targeting Dubai's airport, Iran risks converting neutral or cautious Gulf states into active supporters of the US-led coalition. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said Monday that disruption to the Strait of Hormuz and Gulf energy infrastructure could trigger a food crisis, a fertilizer crisis, and an energy crisis simultaneously. That warning, aimed at the international community, also captures what Gulf states are calculating. At what point does tolerating Iranian attacks become more costly than opposing them? Here is why the evidence supports taking the targeting of Dubai very seriously as a long-term strategic development, not a one-day news event. Emirates Airline, the carrier that has more international routes than any other airline on Earth, is now operating at approximately 60% of its pre-war capacity, according to Flight Radar 24's tracking data. Etihad, Abu Dhabi's national carrier, has dropped to approximately 15% of normal capacity. British Airways has extended its temporary reduction in Middle East flight schedules, citing ongoing uncertainty, and is affecting routes to Dubai, Doha, Bahrain, Amman, and Abu Dhabi. Oman Air has suspended routes to 9 destinations, including Dubai, through March 31st. Qatar Airways announced a continuation of its flight suspension through March 28th. These are not one-day operational adjustments. These are systematic, calendar-based withdrawals by the world's major carriers from the Gulf region's airspace, and their duration is being measured in weeks, not hours. The UAE Defense Ministry's cumulative total of intercepted projectiles, nearly 2,000 across 18 days, tells you something important about the state of the country's air defense systems. The Patriot and THAAD interceptor missiles that are destroying these incoming projectiles cost between $4 and $12 million each to fire. Iran's Shahed drones cost approximately $50,000 to produce. Each interception is a transaction in which the defender spends 100 times more than the attacker to neutralize a single projectile. The UAE has intercepted 1,627 drones and 304 ballistic missiles. Even at conservative cost estimates, the defensive expenditure is measured in the billions, and Iran still has the majority of its drone production capacity intact. Firas Maksad, a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute in Washington, noted in an analysis published this week that Iran's strategy of targeting civilian and economic infrastructure in Gulf states is creating a compounding pressure on Western allies, specifically the European countries that are trying to avoid direct military involvement, while their airlines, their energy supplies, and their trading partners in the Gulf absorb escalating damage. The strategy, he argued, is designed to make the cost of the war's continuation felt in Paris, London, and Berlin through the economic channel, even if those governments maintain they are not parties to the conflict. Now, let us be direct about who gains and who loses from what happened in Dubai over the past 48 hours. Iran demonstrates strategic reach beyond the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting the world's busiest international airport, carries a psychological weight that no number of ballistic missile launches at American military bases can replicate. It tells every multinational corporation, every airline, every logistics company with operations in the Gulf that the economic geography of the region has changed. The disruption extends Iran's leverage beyond oil into aviation, logistics, insurance, and the broader economic infrastructure of the most connected transit hub in the world. The UAE's civilian population, regardless of nationality, loses a fundamental dimension of daily security. 7 people have been killed in the Emirates since the war began, including 4 civilians. Hundreds have been injured. A Palestinian national was killed in Abu Dhabi on Monday when a missile struck a civilian vehicle. These numbers are, in the context of a war that has killed more than 2,000 people across the region, relatively small. But they are occurring in cities that were, 18 days ago, among the safest and most economically dynamic on Earth. The psychological shift that represents for 10 million residents cannot be captured by any statistic. The global logistics industry loses a predictable, insurable routing through the Gulf. The combination of the Strait of Hormuz closure for oil tankers and the increasing unpredictability of Gulf airspace for commercial aviation is beginning to create what analysts at Lloyd's of London are describing as a compounding risk environment, where maritime war risk premiums and aviation war risk premiums are rising simultaneously in the same geographic zone. When both the sea route and the air route through a region become subject to war risk pricing, the economic cost is no longer contained to energy. It spreads to every sector that depends on Gulf connectivity. When a drone hits the fuel tank of the world's busiest international airport and closes a country's national airspace twice in 18 hours, the oil market does not require analysis, it requires context. Brent crude is trading at approximately $103 per barrel as of Tuesday morning, up more than 40% from its pre-war level of $72.48. WTI is at approximately $95. The level the market is watching is not a new number, it is $100 on Brent, the psychological threshold first crossed when Mojtaba Khamenei's statement removed the ceasefire scenario from near-term pricing last week. What changes this direction is not the next drone strike, it is the first confirmed restoration of normal tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, and the first day Emirates operates its full pre-war flight schedule out of Dubai without interruption. Neither has happened. Every source cited in this episode is publicly available. Check the UAE Defense Ministry's cumulative intercept figures, check Flight Radar 24's carrier capacity data, check the joint GCC UK Jordan statement released Monday. In the arrivals hall of Dubai International Airport Terminal 3 on Monday morning, a family from Kerala in southern India sat with their luggage for 6 hours waiting for information about their flight to Kochi. The father, a construction worker completing a contract in Dubai, had bought the tickets 3 weeks before the war began. His wife and 2 children had flown in to accompany him home. The airport's information boards listed their flight as delayed indefinitely. No gate, no new departure time, no airline representative at the desk. They waited as tens of thousands of passengers across the Gulf waited that day. In a transit space that sits at the precise intersection of a war none of them chose and an economy all of them depend on. Reuters reported Monday that the airport's operations staff were working on contingency protocols that had been designed for a single incident disruption, not for the 18th consecutive day of active conflict overhead. Those protocols were not designed for this. Watch the International Maritime Organization extraordinary session, which convenes this week to discuss the Strait of Hormuz and Gulf shipping security. The IMO is the United Nations body that governs international maritime law. An extraordinary session, the first called specifically for Hormuz security in the organization's history, will attempt to define an international legal and operational framework for the restoration of civilian shipping in the Gulf. If the IMO session produces a consensus resolution, it gives Gulf states and European nations a multilateral legal architecture for escort operations that does not require them to join the American coalition directly. If it fails to reach consensus, the vacuum will be filled by bilateral arrangements between individual countries and Iran, which is exactly what Iran's foreign minister invited on Monday when he said Tehran is open to discussions with countries wanting safe passage. Which path the IMO takes will tell you more about how the Strait reopens than any Trump Truth Social post. Tomorrow's episode will cover the IMO session in full and explain what each possible outcome means for the war's next chapter. 90 million passengers. That is who used Dubai International Airport last year. That is the scale of what one drone and one fuel tank fire disrupted this week, and the scale of what the UAE's air defense systems are working every night to protect. The war did not just reach a new country when it reached the UAE. It reached the infrastructure of global civilian connectivity, and the world is only beginning to understand what that means. I'm James Harlow. This is The Right Chapter. It's never too late to get it right. Good night